working? We good?
Yep.
Thank you for having me, ladies, tonight. When Philippa asked me if I'd come and have a chat, or whatever that stops, I jumped at the chance. I was born and bred in Geelong, but moved away when I was about 2 years of age, and I've lived nearly all around the country, New South Wales, Western Australia, and I came back to Geelong nearly 11 years ago. Now, I'm known as the Queen of Resilience, and tonight I'm going to delve into a little bit why I have that title. Now, hold off your questions if you can until the end, and I'm sure I'll be able to answer them then. So, let's see if I can get this working. Scroll down. To be resilient means the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, to show toughness. I was branded the Queen of Resilience back in around about 2018, 2019, when I started telling my story, and people were blown away, and they gave me this hashtag on Instagram and Facebook, and I've kind of rolled with it. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of a background into me, and then we'll talk about why I'm so resilient. So my family are my biggest supporters, and these are my children. So there's Zach and Amelia, they're married with Odin, and then my daughter Ali and her partner Matthew, and they've got 5 kids. So I'm a grandma to 6 at the moment, and number 7's due in November. So I love them to bits, and they're aged from 12 down, at the moment 12 down to 1, and they keep me broke. I'm one of those nanas that just has to buy them things all the time. So in 2011, I was in a corporate job. I was program director for Jenny Craig. There's many things that I've done in my life. I've run for the federal election twice. Don't ask me why I got one. I now even think that I had rocks in my head doing that. I worked for Snooze. I was a weight loss consultant for 12 years with Weight Watchers, and there's lots of multi-level marketing businesses. I was a Tupperware manager with a team of 60. So many different, I think I've done Amway 4 times, back in the early 90s, which then led me to, like I said, being a program director for Jenny Craig, and that was my dream job. I'd worked my whole career to that point, and then I got sick. I'd recently got engaged, and I was on cloud 9, and then in the blink of an eye it all changed. On the 22nd of March 2011, the life that I knew no longer existed. Now, my mum had MS, and that was something that I've lived with since I was 9 years of age, being her carer in my late teens, and her passing away when I was 26 years of age with a 7-week-old baby. We were always told that we wouldn't get MS, it wasn't hereditary, and it's not, but there's a genetic predisposition if all the environmental factors are in place. I guess I won the lotto, it was just the wrong lottery. That then, we were living in Western Australia, and that then led me to moving across, back home to Geelong. My partner at the time was working in the mines, and there was an alternate home to look after my 14-year-old daughter. My son Zach had just gone into the army and was living in Townsville, and so we made the decision to come back for family support, and we did. And I wasn't working, wasn't allowed to work anymore. The neurologist said to me, "You can't work anymore. You have a lot of time on your hands. You better find a hobby." And I'd always wanted to learn how to paint, and I thought I'd do it when I retired. Someday, in the future, when I was 80 or 90, I'd pick up a paintbrush. Well, the universe had other ideas for me, and I went to paint class. It wasn't a simple case of, I learned how to paint, I'm going going to go and learn this. I have major anxiety, and it took me 4 months to actually walk in through the door of an art studio. I would drive there every week, sit outside, couldn't walk in, drive home crying. Just the fear of going in there. And I've been really, really social up until that point. You know, being a Weight Watchers leader, I get up and talk in front of 500 people a week. No problem talking in front of crowds, but at that particular point I did. And my home was my sanctuary. And some of you might relate to this during COVID. Your home became your sanctuary, but it also became your jail. It became very small, very tight, and you didn't see the outside world. And that's what I experienced back in 2011. So then we moved over here and I joined a few other art programs, and I was the youngest by about 25 years in all of them, because they all were retired and I wasn't. But that was okay, because I was there to learn. So then I started to paint. And I don't actually have up on here my first picture that I sold, but I entered the Drysdale Rotary art show. And I sold my first painting for $300. And I was blown away. Because I've gone from $60,000 a year income, which was a lot of money back in 2011, it's still a lot of money now to me, to not earning anything and solely relying on another human being to put a roof over my head and clothes and food in my children's bellies. So for that $300 could have been $3 million, because that's what it felt like. I was like, oh my God, I still have some purpose in life. My purpose is making people happy and smile when they look at my artwork. So I paint lots of bright, cheerful animals. As you can see, there's Basil and there's Gutso, and yeah, they've all got names. And Kaleidoscope Turtle up there as well. And then there's Magus, the giraffe sculpture, and I went into 3D sculpting, and life, had some purpose for me. I started entering lots of art shows, and of course entered your art show with this one. So with the Commitment, Conviction and Courage exhibition in 2015, and I won the new exhibitor. We were trying to work out what it was.
Yeah, we have to look back through the records, but yeah.
I'd have to pull it off the
talent
wall.
or something.
Yeah.
Or what, yeah.
Now I still actually have that. It's sold in that exhibition, and I went back in and was handed. I don't remember who actually handed me the invoice and said, "Congratulations, you sold it." And I was blown away. I think I had about $650 on it. Now what you can't see in this picture, it doesn't really come up very well, is on one side of my hair, I asked on Facebook everyone to describe me in one word, and they came up with 119 different words. And then on the other side were all my hidden symptoms with MS, because I don't look disabled, but I am disabled. And quite often I get abused for parking in disabled car parks because I don't fit what disability looks like. So I'm pretty proud of that piece. I still have that piece. So when I went in and someone handed me the invoice and said, congratulations, they also handed me the picture. And when I opened up and had a look at the receipt, it said, "Dear Justy, never ever lose sight of your goals. I love you to bits, Gailey." And it was from my girlfriend Gail, who was in WA and who'd come over for the exhibition. And she bought it with her ex-husband's money. and gave it to me, and she goes, "You are not ever allowed to sell it." And so I haven't. It sits in my office. It's a little bit narcissistic having all these portraits of myself around the house, but I'm very, very proud of that one. So thank you for having that exhibition, because I wouldn't have produced that otherwise. So my trials and tribulations. So MS was hard enough to deal with. That was in 2011. Then 2013, 14 and 15 I had heart surgery. So I had a resting heart rate of around about 165 beats a minute. So for those that don't know, your heart should be about 65 beats a minute. So I had an extra 100 beats every minute going on. And I just thought I had internal MS shakes, but apparently no, it wasn't. I had something majorly wrong with my heart and underwent a couple of ablations on the heart because the first surgery didn't work. Yeah, the first surgery didn't work. So 11 weeks, 12 weeks later, I had to go back in and have it redone again, and then hemorrhage from that. And so if it's going to go wrong, it'll go wrong. Then I went back to the heart specialist and said, there's something else wrong with my heart. He goes, I've been there fiddling around with it, that's understandable. Go back in 6 months if it's still happening. Alright, went back in 6 months, I said, it feels worse. There's definitely something wrong with it. And he goes, oh, we'll put a Holter monitor on. So he put a Holter monitor on me. Anyone had one of those before? Yeah. So normally they put them on for 24 hours. He goes, oh, we'll put it on for a week. And I remember thinking, a week? I'm going to shower for a week. Anyway, less than 24 hours later, it went flat. I rang them, I said, oh, it's flat. And I went, oh, you're only pushing it when you're having episodes? Yes, of course. Anyway, I'll bring it back in, we'll see if there's a fault in it. And I got a phone call 3 days later, oh, Mark wants to see you, and that was my surgeon. And I went back in and he goes, oh, the average person loses about 25 beats every 24 hours. I'm like, yeah, what am I losing? He goes, 1 in every 5. I went, oh, what are you going to do about that? You don't have to have another ablation, but you have to be awake for this one. I'm like, no. He goes, yeah, because if we put you to sleep, your heart will go back into normal rhythm, and we've got to find out where it is. So he goes, well, it's all right, we'll do a bit of the twilight, you won't remember much. No, I remember the whole thing, and I laid there talking to him, looking around the room, going, oh. Did it hurt? Yes, extremely bad. And then I got pericarditis from that. Has anyone had pericarditis? So that's inflammation of the heart lining. It's in comparison in pain-wise to having a heart attack. It was excruciating, and I was very, very ill, and they called in the whole family to pretty much say goodbye. But anyway, I came through that one at the end of 2015, and I started in 2001 competing in tug of war nationally. I wanted to meet a man. And they tell you, to meet a man, you join sporting activities. This body was not designed to run, not that type of cardio. And I lived in a small country town with 6,000 people, and I knew who that guy was married to and why their marriage split up. And I went, yeah, no, that's not going to work. And then my girlfriend goes, come join tug of war. And I was would have been about 116 kilos at the time. I peaked at 125 kilos, but that's a whole different story, that one. And she goes, come join tug of war. And I went, I don't do sport. I'd worked out in high school that the music teacher was married to the sports teacher. So I did everything musical so I could get out of doing sport back then. And I'm like, I don't do sport. And she goes, oh, we travel. And I'm like, who's going to pay for that? I'm a single mum with 2 young kids. And she goes, oh, we fundraise. I said, who's going to look after my kids for, we train 3 times a week, 2 hours each training. And she goes, you can bring them with us. All the other mums bring their kids. No, I can't get out of that. And then she goes, there's men's teams. I went, all right, what time's training? So off I went. And I became a national sporting champion through tug of war. And then I met a man who happened to be, the first comp I went to, I looked at them all and I went, oh, that awful. And then I said to her, there's no cute hot ones here. She goes, well, I didn't tell you they were hot. I just said they were men's teams. And I'm like, all right. And then we went off to nationals, and there I saw him. And I ended up moving the other side of the country with my children because he was from Perth. And I was living in Clements, northern New South Wales, and it was a long way to commute every time I wanted to see him. So off I went. Anyway, he was doing weightlifting, and so the kids and I started weightlifting, and we competed internationally in a sport called all-round weightlifting, and won some world titles and blah blah on that. So then when we moved over here, my daughter was actually doing Olympic weightlifting, and I'd take her to Geelong Weightlifting Club and sit there 8 hours a week, twiddling my thumbs. And at that stage, I was on a walking stick. So when I was first diagnosed, I was quite ill with the MS, and it was about 2012 it would have been. And do you remember when the Australian Masters Games came to Geelong in 2013? Well, her coach said to me, why don't you compete in powerlifting in the disabled bench? And I went, oh, the bench is not that strong. He goes, oh, we'll give you something to do. So I did. I competed and I won. I was the only one in it. I normally don't tell people that. You know, I was the best on the day. The best in Australia on the day for that division. It's in the trophy room. And then I made the silly mistake when we were training saying, well, when this is over, I might give Olympic weightlifting a try. Didn't think they'd remember. I walked in on the Monday after the Australian Masters Games and they're like, my coach was like, right, you ready to start Olympic? And I'm like, no, I was kidding. Anyway, I did start it and I ended up competing for Australia at the Oceanias and the Pacific Rim Championships as a Masters lifter in 2016. So after each heart surgery, it'd be like, when can I go back to training? When can I go back and lift heavy weights? And then the first operation said, oh, I'll give it a week or two, because they went up through the groin, so I didn't get cut through the chest. And then after the third one, he goes, you have to wait 6 weeks just not to go and lift anything heavy. And I was too sick anyway. But anyway, I was competing in Tasmania in June 2016 and I was turning purple. And I went to my GP when I came back with some photos of what my hands look like. It was really painful. And I said to her, you know, what's happening? And I just changed meds about 12 months earlier for the MS, the disease modifying therapy that they put me on to slow down the progression. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing. Come back in 4 months if it's still happening. I went, oh, okay. I happened to have an appointment a couple of weeks later with my neurologist and I mentioned to him, I said, oh, do you think it's the drugs that's doing this? And he goes, no, I think something else is going on. We better do some tests. You better find another GP. So I did. I went off and found another GP and then he sent me for a series of tests. So I had to go to a rheumatologist first. Went to the rheumatologist and he said, they said, oh, we think it's a thing called lividio reticularis. And I went, all right. Now, my son thought it was great. He thought I was from the living dead and I was turning into a zombie. Mum's a zombie. And he looked at my blood results and looked at everything and said, look, I don't think it's anything to do with connective tissue. I think you better go and see a dermatologist to confirm that it is lividio. So I looked into that next week. So I had all these appointments already booked and I had an appointment to a haematologist as well. Because you know how long it is to wait for specialists and nothing happens fast like in the movies. Anyone else had that happen? That, you know, in the movies it happens straight away, within the hour, you're cured. It doesn't happen that way. So I went to the dermatologist a week later and she looked at my hands and by that stage it was in my nose, my chin, my ears were going black, my hands were definitely going a lot of shade purple on my feet. And it was happening at about 12 degrees to start with and then it was happening at 19 degrees. We live in Victoria, in Geelong. It is cold for 9 months of the year. How do you keep warm and not go purple in that period of time? If I didn't warm up, it would cause necrosis and I'd be losing bits. Fingers dropping off, toes dropping off, nose, ears dropping off. So it was very serious. Anyway, I went to the hematologist, what was I saying? Thanks, short-term memory. The dermatologist, and she looked at my feet and she goes, definitely the video, I don't need to do a biopsy. But when was the last time you had a skin check done? I went, oh, my former GP did one a while ago. She said, oh, we're here now, you're naked, let's do a mole map. I went, alright, so I'm not going to cost me anything extra. So she did, and I had a spot here and I had a spot here, and I had a little mole on my leg. And she burnt instantly one here, and I'm like, I've got a 40th birthday party to go to this weekend. You can't just burn them off now with dry ice, I'm going to have blisters. And then I said, oh, will I book in for the biopsy? And I'm like, oh, no, we'll do that now. And I'm like, oh, all right then. So rather than, you know, thinking about it and getting in shock, I walked out in shock that she just burnt 2 off and cut one out. She goes, look, don't worry about it. I'm going away on a conference. I was thinking, yeah, of course you are. We'll let you know if there's anything to worry about. Okay. Anyway, I wasn't worried. I walked out of there thinking, oh my God, I've got lymphoma. Because she confirmed that it was lividio. And there's 3 things that pause the video, and that's lymphoma, rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus. The other two had been wiped out. I was like, I've got lymphoma. Oh my God, I've got cancer. So I was walking through Corio Village, because there's a really good dress shop out there, and I was walking through there and the phone rang, and I answered the phone, and it was the nurse from the dermatologist, and she goes, I'm just ringing to tell you what you've got melanoma. I won't tell you in public what I said, but you can imagine. And I'm like, no, I don't have melanoma. I'm supposed to have lymphoma. No, you've definitely got melanoma. You're going to have to come back in and have it all cut out and contained. So it was on my lower leg. And I'd always worried about, the moles on my back and the moles on my arms, and I'd had other moles cut out in the past, but I'd never checked my legs. And women get more melanoma on their legs than anywhere else on our bodies, because I don't know about you, but when I was at school, our short dresses, our legs out in the sun, trying to get a tan. So I went back in, had it all cut out, and I'm one of these people that anaesthetics don't work on, felt my cesarean, felt them cut it out, even though I say to them, you need to give me extra anaesthetic because I'm going to feel it. Woken up in the middle of operations with tubes down my throat and other parts of my body, but they don't listen. So then I had a leg full of stitches, and then I was off to the haematologist. And I went in to the haematologist, and she looked at my long list of things that have happened, because this is just a smidge that I'm telling you today. And said, it's not on there that I have melanoma. And she goes, when did you have that? I said, last week. And then they started on more blood tests. And I was booked to go to Bali in about 3 weeks from seeing her. She goes, I'm going to have to do a bone marrow biopsy. Am I going to be able to go to Bali? I was more worried about going to Bali. And she goes, yeah, we'll do it when you come back. I went, oh, okay, thanks. So it was all booked and paid for. Anyway, about a week before Bali, my bloods came back, and they said, she rang me and she said, oh, we can't wait for you to come back from Bali. We need to do the bone marrow biopsy now. So what that is that they put a needle into the back of your pelvis, and they bust off some bone, and then they take bone marrow in. They take bone marrow and a bit of the bone away, and you're awake for it, and it's excruciatingly painful. And I've had 3 of them done now. 2 of them I was awake for, and the 3rd one they put me to sleep. And now they put everyone to sleep because of the experiences that I've had up there. So I had that done, and then I started losing. I had decreased lung capacity. I couldn't bend my fingers, and I couldn't bend my toes. So something else was going on. Then it came back that I had a condition in December called, they knew I had lymphoma, they just didn't know what type. So the results came back, you have lymphoma, but we don't know what type. And then in the December 2016, I had a thing called mixed cryoglobulinemia. So I had too many cryoglobulinemia, which is a protein in your blood, and my bone marrow was making too much protein, which was then causing so much inflammation around all my internal organs, it was choking me from the inside out. And then, so I thought I had to go through Christmas and New Year thinking that was going to be my last ever Christmas and New Year, and to get all my affairs and my will and everything in order. Then in the January 2017, I was diagnosed with small lymphocytic lymphoma and chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So I had lymphoma, leukemia, melanoma, mixed cryoglobulinemia, and video reticularis, and MS, all at the same time. Now, I just recently bought a house. So these pictures here, can you see how it's purple? That's what colour I walked around. That was on a good day. That was 19 degrees that day. When it was colder, I went darker purple. And then that was a Hickman line, so they put a thing into my chest, which fed straight into the heart to put the chemo in, and it was scary. It was really scary. So by the time I was diagnosed with it all, I was stage 4. And if I'd listened to that GP back in the June that told me to wait 4 months, I would not be standing in front of you today. So if you get one thing out of my talk today, it's always ask for a second opinion. If you're not happy with something, don't sit back and wait. There's plenty of other GPs, there's plenty of other specialists out there. You need to be proactive in your own health. So I woke up in December, so I did chemo and I did another thing called rituximab. The chemo I was on was a derivative from World War One mustard gas, and it was called bendamustine. I had allergic reactions to it. I did steroids. When I got diagnosed with the cancer and they said, oh, you've got to have chemo, the first thing that went through my mind, this is going to sound really bad, it's like, I'm going to be thin. Well, once in my life, I'm going to be thin. No, not me. They put me on steroids and I put on 22 kilos. How is that fair, I ask you? So I took a year and a bit off weightlifting. I just didn't have the strength to do it. And then I went back to weightlifting because I got asked to referee and compete in the World Championships for all-round weightlifting in Perth. And then someone rear-ended me out here in Paco Street on the way home from the gym. And I went, yeah, that's a sign I'm not meant to compete at the moment. And then in the November 2017, the MS decided that I'd done a little bit too much and I had a full-blown relapse and woke up one morning unable to walk. So then I spent the next 3 weeks in hospital and then rehabilitation and learning how to walk again. And then I went back into the gym in February 2018 and I could only move 3 kilos, that was the maximum. But I kept training, I kept going in 3 times a week and it's like, you're not going to win, I'm going to win. So I'd go to hospital, have my infusions and I'd take stuff to paint and draw and that got me through. That's at the air show inside one of the big Hercules. I can't go out for a whole day without taking Miss Molly, my chair. She's now got a motor on it because my left arm is affected and I go around in circles if I try and push myself. So thank goodness for NTIS because she costs $17,000. Yeah, as soon as you mention disability, the price goes through the roof. I've also got a mobility scooter as well. His name's Richard. I'll leave that name for you to So everyone asks me, why are you so positive? How do you get through everything? And that's when the Clean and Resilience came about. I started art wellness classes to people with disabilities in my studio at home because I wanted to give back what I got from art. Now, this media that's up there at the moment, that's just been this year. It's been unbelievable the amount of media and different awards and everything that I've won. The Smart Daily, this one here, went national. Now, some of you may have seen me as well, and it's not, I don't think I put it on there. I went away last year, and a girlfriend and I went to Queensland, and we stayed in a hotel with bed bugs. And out of all the media that I've ever had done, it went viral around the world. Bed bugs, all right. So we were talking about awards. In the last 12 months, I've been nominated for 29 awards across the country. And to date, I've won 7 out of that 29, and the last one being last week. So that was last week in Sydney, and they were all the ones that I won. There is another one there, I haven't put it in. I won the Geelong, City of Greater Geelong Disability Achievement Award last year as well. And I'm one of the presenters this year and on billboards. And look out, you'll see my face. Look, I've seen her. This is my house. I'm in Barwari Road in Marshall, and I live, breathe art everywhere. You'll see the sculpt, you'll see maybe out the front. And now there's a 6-metre sausage dog along the fence, and people come to my home and do finger painting for grown-ups. So when I lost the ability to move my fingers, I also lost the ability to paint and draw with a paintbrush and pen. And painting art had become my form of meditation, and it's like, how am I going to still create? And I kept getting tagged on this woman, Iris Scott, her name is, from overseas, and she finger painted. I wonder if I could do that, and I could, and I did. So now I teach other people finger painting for grown-up classes on Saturday mornings, so come and have a bit of a play. Philip has been to one. So I was told that I'd never work again. I now own 6 businesses, and they're branched under Justine Martin Corporation. My mum used to say there's no such word as can't, and there isn't. You just got to work out how to modify yourself and what you're doing, and the world is your oyster. So last year I wrote and illustrated a children's book called Same But Different and dedicated it to my grandchildren, sent it off to 31 publishers and got 5 contracts back. Guess how many I used? None. They wouldn't let me do what I wanted to do with the book. And I have a girl that works for me, Susie, and went off to the loo because all great ideas come when sitting on the toilet, don't they? And I came back out and said, I'm going to start publishing. Oh, you're only gone for a minute. That's all it takes for a good idea. You just got to follow through with it. So I have Resilience Mindset, Morpheus Publishing, Finger Painting for Grown-Ups, Van Gogh Decals, Just Art, Team Fingerprint, and I just launched last week Geelong Residential Cleaners as well. I don't do the cleaning, my daughter does the cleaning. I have a Resilience Mindset podcast that's on all major streaming platforms, and we're about to launch season 2, and there's a book coming out with each season as well. So there's Finger Painting for Grown-Ups. So they're paintings that I've done purely just by using my fingers. Okay, so it's not like what we used to do in primary school. And for anyone who says here that they can't draw a straight line, or they're not creative, right? Yeah, you are. You just haven't been taught properly. Or someone in primary school said to you that you weren't any good in that. Because everyone can paint and draw. And those of us that are a little bit better have just spent more time doing it. Simple. So they're the art wellness classes to people with disabilities, and I absolutely love helping others find their creative streak in that. I do resilience consulting and coaching, so if you're stuck with an adversity, I tailor it to your needs and I help you overcome that adversity. There isn't an adversity on this planet that I haven't faced. I have been through domestic violence, so I've got a broken arm, and that happened nearly 2 years ago. I lost my current partner a month ago, he passed away. I've been through divorce, I've been nearly bankrupt, so there isn't too much that I haven't experienced, and my knowledge is there to help others, and that's why I get out and tell my story, that maybe someone in the room has got something out of it tonight and it improves their quality of life. Books, I'm now an Amazon best-selling author with Release the Shackles was the first one. So I've done 3 co-authored books on Release the Shackles, Courage and Confidence, and Raw, and I actually illustrated the front cover of Raw, so I'm pretty proud of that, and that was done with Business in Heels, which is a Geelong-based company, but is international as well. And then Same But Different is the children's book that Morpheus Publishing, we launched it last month, and I wrote and illustrated that, and we were talking about book week, and my grandson wins himself because he's in the book for book week, so we can't top that, can we? So they're my contact details, and I am open for other talks if you know anywhere else that may like a keynote speaker, guest speaker, workshops. I do the 10 top tips on gaining resilience as well with that. I do have copies of the children's book and 2 of the other books here tonight if anyone would like to have a look at them or purchase them, and I've brought my little F-Cross machine with me because I take it everywhere. Okay, I think that's about it. Any questions?
Yes.
Go for it, Rayma. You've got a question.
No, she's just saying yes.
Yes, questions.
I'll just say that having lived in Clifton Springs for many years and frequented the zoo.
Oh, I didn't mention that.
It makes sense now when I see some of the things up there. The art that you've got on display there, which is so beautiful and colourful when you walk in there.
So I have 2 galleries. In my spare time. One at Cafe Zoo in Drysdale and one in Barwari Road, and Barwari Road is open on Tuesdays and Thursdays and some Saturdays by appointment. And I was very fortunate to actually take on the wall space at Cafe Zoo, so I love it out there.
Yeah,
and I have a range of greeting cards as well, which are available out there.
Okay.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
So, questions?
Any other questions? When you're all not in shock?
Just with MS, is that an autoimmune disease?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it is. They're not 100% sure. If anyone wants to know further about MS, there's a really good course that you can do by the Tasmanian University, and it goes for about 8 weeks, but it's very comprehensive. And it just turns out that one of the scientists that put it together, I went to high school with, and I didn't realise till I was watching it. I went, I know you. We went to high school. So, but it's very comprehensive.
Is that like a short course that you?
Yeah, it's just they drop 1 unit a week, and it's all videos, and it's not like questions and answers or anything like that. But you can learn a lot from it. MS affects. They reckon that there's about 25,000 of us in Australia, but that's only the ones that are registered with MS Australia. There's a lot of people that are misdiagnosed or that they haven't come forward and been diagnosed yet. 1 in every 5 people know someone with MS. Right. And the more that we get out, I'm an MS ambassador and I have been for the last 8 years or so, and talking about it. So there isn't anything about MS that I don't actually know, because like I said, I've been living with this since I was 9 as a carer and then as someone that unfortunately has it. I run a Facebook group with nearly 1,000 people in it. Before there were any MS groups, when I was stuck at home, remember how I said that it was my sanctuary, my jail, the partner that I was with didn't recognise what I was going through, and I just needed to talk to someone that knew what I was going through, so I started a Facebook group, and it is open to anyone in Australia that has MS.
And is that the cause of you not being able to pick up a paintbrush?
No, so what caused me not picking up a paintbrush was the mixed cryoglobulin anemia, because it was choking off everything and causing all these lumps out of all of my joints with inflammation. What gave me the cancers was the disease-modifying drugs that they put me on for the MS, and it's in the fine print that, you know, if you have a genetic predisposition to something, it can come through, and I can trace all the cancers back through my dad's side of the family. There's 4 of us on my mum's side of the family that have MS. So my grandmother felt a lot of guilt for quite a few years that she'd then given it to me, and I'm like, don't be stupid, it's genetics, we can't change this. So, we're no closer really to a cure than what we were when my mum passed away at the age of 49 from complications from it. We do now have these disease-modifying therapies, and there's about 12 different ones that you can go on, but they're painful, they all come with side effects. I give myself an infusion every week. I have no B cells and no T cells. I'm prone to infections. I'm leukopenic, lymphopenic, and borderline neutropenic all the time, which is the white blood cells that I don't have them to fight infections. I've always got some kind of infection at the moment. It's a chest and sinus infection, and I'm back on antibiotics. I think this is about the 15th round this year that I've been on. So I'm also becoming antibiotic resistant. So prior to COVID, I was going in once a month and having what's called intragram, which is other people's antibodies, to try and boost my immune system. And then when COVID started, they went, well, you're not allowed in the hospital anymore, you're going to have to learn how to do it at home. So I put 3 needles into my belly every Wednesday, when I go home tonight, every Wednesday night, and hook it up to a pump and sit there for an hour and do it. And you do whatever it takes to have a healthy and happy and longer life. But to me, it's about the quantity of life, or the quality of life rather than the quantity of life. And I'm a very big believer in voluntary assisted dying, and Andrew Denton used me in his Go Gentle campaign back in 2017. I'm also a witness for voluntary assisted dying now through Barwon Health. I'm one of the ones that signs off on it. And why do I do that? Because I'd like to think that if the time comes and I need to use it, that there'd be someone there for me. So how can I expect someone there for me if I'm not prepared to go and do that for someone else? So, and going through everything that I've been through has put my mindset into that. And it's not for everyone, and I appreciate that, but it is there for those of us that may require it.
So is there genetic testing for MS like there is for the BRCA gene?
No, nothing. And there's no one set test to say that you have MS either. So lots of MRIs and there'll be white glowy things that show up in your brain. But they can be caused from things like migraines, and I'm a hemiplegic migraine sufferer, so they misdiagnosed me to start with. They kept saying, oh, it's your migraines, and I'm like, but why can't I move my arm? Why is my face all tingly? Why after 25 years has it changed? And no one could tell me, and then I had more symptoms and that happened, and I can't count properly anymore. I'm better than what I was 10 years ago. I have major cognitive issues, my short-term memory is shit. I write everything down on lists, and I've adapted to it as well. And I work bloody hard on how I look, because that's about the only thing that I can still control in my body is how I look. So nails, makeup, hair, all of that, because I can't control what's going, most things inside. I have counselling regularly every fortnight. I believe that it's not my children or my friends' responsibility for me to dump on them, and that keeps me grounded and going through. Over the road, actually. I go to Emerald Tree, so yeah.
So how do you...
Last question.
Okay,
Last
sorry.
question.
And I've been hogging.
No.
How
Last
do you
question, we've
keep
just
such
got
a
more
positive
left.
mindset?
Because it's too bloody much energy to be negative. It really is.
Excellent answer.
And there's people far worse out there than me. Life is short. We get one life. You've got to make the most of it. You've got to put as much into it as you possibly can. I do not want to be on my deathbed, and I've been there a couple of times, and say, geez, I wish I'd done that. Why didn't I do that? I've jumped out of planes, I go off on trips, I tick off everything on my bucket list, and I'm always adding more things to my bucket list. And I live a very full and rewarding life despite my disabilities. My body likes to remind me every so often that it's still in control, and that my mind isn't. But counselling keeps me positive, catching up with friends and family, keep me positive, watching happy movies. I really limit on what I'm putting into my brain. So I don't watch the news. If something important has happened in the world, someone will tell you. I haven't watched the news in 3 years, so...
Smart move these days.
Yeah.
All right, look, I do apologise, but we really got
and I'm sorry for
to
going
go
over.
to. And because there've been fascinating questions and a lot to hear about, I'm not going to ask you to do what I was going to, which is to get out a pen and paper and write down every condition that Justine has ever had and spell it correctly.
I still can't spell it correctly, so good luck with that.
So Justine, we thank you immensely for a fascinating, people were so attentive. It's not often that we're all so attentive to someone. Your message is absolutely amazing. I guarantee there's none of us here who have done the sorts of things that Justine has done and filled things in. Your art is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
You make cards. We make little cards too, so we hope you appreciate
Thank
our
you.
gift of some of our Zonta
I
cards
love
with
it.
you. And thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My friends and family are sick of my cards, so it's great. I give them some other ones. So thanks. And if anyone does have any further questions, just see me at the end, and I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got that much left to do actually.